He meant to call the emergency number, but one accidental tap put a desperate father on the line with the city's most dangerous man. He had no money, no hope, and a son whose breaths were fading by the minute. In his desperation, one trembling call went through, not to a doctor but to the most feared mafia boss in the city. The old phone trembled in his hand as the dial tone echoed through the cold, silent night. He whispered his son's name. "Hold on, please. Just hold on," his voice breaking with every word. On the other end of the city, a man in a dark suit paused, eyes narrowing as he answered the unexpected call. Two worlds collided that night, one filled with pain and poverty, the other with power and blood. Neither man knew that this single call would change both their lives forever. The father's trembling fingers struggled to hold the phone steady. Static filled the air, followed by a deep, commanding voice on the other end. "Who is this?" The father swallowed hard, tears blurring his vision. Please, my son, he's dying. I need help." A silence, then a low, curious breath. "Do you even know who you're calling?" the voice asked, calm but dangerous. "I don't care. I just need someone, anyone, to save him." The father's voice cracked, echoing off the peeling hospital walls. The man on the line leaned back in his leather chair, staring at the city lights outside his window. Something about that desperation. It reminded him of a past he had buried long ago. He exhaled slowly. "Send me your location." The father froze. "What?" "You called me by mistake," the voice said, his tone darkening. "But maybe it's a mistake worth answering." Lightning flashed outside. Somewhere between despair and power, two lives were about to collide, and nothing would ever be the same again. Hello, Moonlight family. Welcome back to Moonlight Romance Stories. If you're new here, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic stories filled with betrayal, power, and transformation. And to all my loyal viewers, thank you for always lighting up the Moonlight world with your support. Rain hammered against the clinic's broken windows as Daniel Cruz held his son's frail hand, his heart thudding louder than the storm outside. Eli's breathing was shallow. Every rise and fall of his chest seemed weaker than the last. The flickering bulb above them cast more shadows than light, turning the small room into a cage of despair. The nurse had disappeared hours ago, promising to bring oxygen but never returned. The hospital line kept cutting off. Daniel's old phone was wet from sweat and tears, his fingers trembling as he tried the emergency number again. But this time, something went wrong. A faint click. A deep voice answered. "Who's this?" Daniel froze. The voice didn't sound like a doctor. It was cold, commanding, filled with quiet danger. "Please, my son," Daniel stammered. "He's dying. I need help. I don't have money, but—" "Slow down," the voice interrupted, calm yet sharp. "Where are you?" Daniel's eyes widened. "The old St. Mercy Clinic. Please, he can't breathe." A pause, long and heavy. Then the voice spoke again, quieter this time. "You shouldn't have reached me, but stay where you are." Before Daniel could reply, the line went dead. He stared at his phone, confusion clouding his panic. He tried redialing, but the screen flickered out. No signal, no sound, only Eli's faint whimpers and the hum of rain outside. Minutes passed like hours. Daniel pressed a damp cloth to his son's forehead, whispering softly, "You'll be okay, Eli. Daddy's here. Just breathe for me." Then, the distant growl of engines. Headlights cut through the rain, slicing across the clinic's cracked windows. Daniel looked up. Several black cars rolled to a stop outside the gates. Men in dark coats stepped out, moving in perfect formation under umbrellas. Daniel's pulse spiked. Who are they? The front doors burst open. Rain poured in as heavy boots stomped across the tiles. A man in black gloves entered first, clean-shaven, expressionless, an earpiece glowing faintly under his collar. "Daniel Cruz?" he asked. Daniel stumbled back, shielding his son. "Who are you? What do you want?" The man tapped his earpiece. "Target located. The boy's alive, but fading fast." Daniel's mind spun. Target? He looked toward the entrance again. More figures approached, tall, armed, silent. Through the rain, Daniel caught sight of a sleek car door opening and a shadowed figure stepping out. Lightning flashed. For a moment, Daniel saw the man's face, calm, emotionless, watching him like a predator observing prey. Victor Moretti. The name whispered across the city like a curse. Daniel turned back to Eli, panic clawing his chest. "Please, stay with me. Please." But Eli's body went still. His small chest no longer rose. His fingers slipped from Daniel's grasp. Daniel screamed his name, shaking him desperately. "Eli, no, please." The door creaked open behind him. Boots echoed closer. Victor's cold voice cut through the chaos. Low, deliberate, terrifyingly calm. "Move aside. Let my men handle this." Daniel looked up, eyes wide with disbelief, as one of the guards pulled out a defibrillator. Eli's monitor flatlines just as Victor's men surround them. "Clear!" The defibrillator's sharp crack split the silence. Daniel flinched as Eli's small body jerked, then fell still again. The monitor screamed its single, merciless tone. Flat, endless, final. Another jolt, another silence. Daniel's sobs echoed through the dim clinic. "Please don't stop, he's all I have." One of the men looked back toward the doorway, uncertain. Then came a calm voice, smooth, deep, commanding. "Keep going," Victor said. He stepped forward, water dripping from his coat, his dark eyes fixed on the boy. Daniel had seen men with authority before, doctors, police, even pastors, but no one carried a presence like this. The air itself seemed to bend around him. The third shock hit. The monitor flickered. Beep, beep. Faint, fragile, but alive. Daniel gasped, falling to his knees beside his son. "Eli. Oh God, Eli." The men moved with rehearsed precision. One pulled out an oxygen mask, another a portable IV kit. Within seconds, Eli was stabilized, though weak and barely conscious. Daniel stared at them, terrified. "Who are you people? What do you want with my son?" A man in black gloves zipped the medical bag shut. "Orders from Mr. Moretti. The boy's condition is critical. He's being moved." "Moved," Daniel repeated, rising shakily. "To where?" No one answered. They lifted Eli onto a stretcher and began toward the door. Daniel tried to follow, but one of them blocked his path. "Sir, stay back." Daniel's panic boiled over. "You can't take him. He's my son." From behind, Victor's voice cut through again. "He's also dying. You can come, or you can stay and watch him fade." Daniel's breath hitched. He hesitated only a moment before pushing past the guard. "I'm coming." Outside, rain battered the black sedans waiting in formation. Victor's men loaded Eli into one of them, attaching tubes and monitors that glowed faintly in the storm's darkness. Daniel climbed in after him, soaked and shaking. The door slammed shut, and the car roared into the night. Through the tinted window, Daniel caught Victor's reflection, calm, unreadable, hands folded over his lap. Why are you helping us?" Daniel asked quietly. Victor didn't look at him. "Because sometimes fate calls the wrong number." The words hung heavy. The ride was long, endless streets and flashing lights. When they finally stopped, Daniel blinked in disbelief. This wasn't a public hospital. It was private, vast and gleaming with expensive equipment. Guards stood at every corner. Eli was rushed inside on a stretcher. Daniel tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him at the door. "Please wait outside, sir." He watched helplessly as his son vanished through white double doors. Behind the glass, he saw flashes of movement, doctors, wires, machines. He pressed his hand against the window, whispering, "Please, just breathe." Hours passed. The storm outside softened to a drizzle. Daniel sat alone in the corridor, his clothes damp, his mind spinning. Who was this man? Why would a mafia boss care about saving his son? The elevator bell chimed. Daniel looked up. Every doctor and nurse instantly straightened, heads bowed, hands still. A chill ran down his spine as Victor Moretti stepped out, his presence filling the hall. "Mr. Cruz," Victor said softly, his eyes unreadable. "We need to talk." The sound of footsteps echoed down the sterile hallway as Victor approached, his shadow stretching across the floor. The door to the operating room swung open. A nurse stepped out, trembling. "Sir." The boy's heartbeat just stopped again. The nurse's trembling words hung in the air like the final echo of a storm. "Sir." The boy's heartbeat just stopped again. Daniel felt his knees give way. "No, no, please." He stumbled toward the door, but two guards blocked him. Through the glass, flashes of light and the frantic rhythm of medical orders blurred together. "Charge to 200. Clear." The monitor shrieked, then fell silent again. Daniel pressed his palms against the window, sobbing. "Please, God, don't take him. I'll do anything." Victor watched him, emotionless, still. Only the faintest flicker crossed his eyes, something between irritation and recognition. He turned to one of his men. "Bring in Dr. Navarro. Tell him to use the serum." The guard hesitated. "Sir, that formula isn't—" "Now." Within seconds, a silver case was rushed into the room. The doctor drew a glowing liquid into a syringe, injecting it into Eli's arm. The monitor pulsed once, twice, then a faint beep returned. Daniel gasped. "He's breathing! He's breathing!" Victor didn't smile. He simply turned away. "Make sure he stabilizes, then move him to observation." Hours passed before Daniel was allowed into the recovery room. Eli lay pale but peaceful, a soft rhythm returning to his chest. Machines hummed quietly around him. Daniel brushed the boy's hair back, tears of relief spilling down his cheeks. "You did it, buddy. You made it." He turned as footsteps echoed behind him. Victor stood by the door, his black coat now replaced by a crisp, tailored suit. His expression remained unreadable. "I don't know how to thank you," Daniel began, voice shaking. "I owe you my son's life. If there's anything—" "There is," Victor interrupted coldly. Daniel froze. "What do you mean?" Victor stepped closer, his presence heavy and unyielding. "Do you know how much that boy's treatment cost? The equipment, the medicine, the people who risked everything to save him?" Daniel shook his head slowly, unsure whether to speak. "A life saved," Victor said, "is a debt created." Daniel's stomach twisted. "I didn't ask you to—" "You didn't have to," Victor replied. "Fate did." He reached into his coat and pulled out a black envelope, placing it on the small table beside Eli's bed. "You owe me now, Mr. Cruz." Daniel's throat went dry. "What's this?" "Your first task." Victor turned toward the door, his voice echoing low and final. "Find the man in that photo. Bring him to me, alive." The door shut behind him, leaving only the steady beep of Eli's heart monitor. Daniel hesitated, then slowly reached for the envelope. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a single photograph, grainy, slightly torn, of a man standing by an old warehouse. Daniel's eyes widened. He knew that face. The man in the photo was his late wife's brother, someone Daniel thought had vanished years ago. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The edges of the photograph quivered in his trembling hands. No, it can't be. The man in the photo wasn't just a stranger. It was Miguel Alvarez, his late wife's brother, a man who disappeared without a trace years ago, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions and grief. The door creaked softly. A shadow loomed. One of Victor's men, tall and stone-faced, stepped into the room. "Boss says you'll start tonight." Daniel blinked, still clutching the photo. "Start what?" The guard tilted his head slightly, unimpressed by the question. "The assignment. Don't make him wait, Cruz. You owe him." Daniel's voice broke into a whisper. "I don't even know where he is anymore." The man leaned closer, his voice like a blade. "Then you'd better remember fast. The boy's treatment isn't cheap, and it can stop just as easily as it started." Those words sliced through him. Daniel glanced at the monitor beside Eli's bed. Soft, rhythmic beeps, each one a reminder of how fragile his son's life was. "Please," Daniel whispered. "He's just a child." The man didn't blink. "Then make the right choice." After the guard left, Daniel sank into the chair, burying his face in his hands. He'd just gotten Eli back. He couldn't lose him again. But to work for a man like Victor, to track down someone tied to his past, felt like stepping into a pit with no way out. A soft, weak voice interrupted his spiral. "Dad?" Daniel rushed to Eli's side, forcing a smile. "Hey, champ, you're awake." Eli's eyes were heavy, his skin pale. "Why are you crying?" Daniel brushed his hair gently. "I'm not crying, buddy, just tired. You're gonna be okay, I promise." But the promise burned like a lie in his mouth. Later that night, as the city lights flickered through the hospital window, Daniel sat hunched over a laptop searching for any trace of Miguel. Old forum posts, abandoned records, newspaper archives. One name kept appearing: the Iron Pier. The more Daniel dug, the more unsettled he became. Miguel hadn't just vanished. He'd been hiding. At exactly 2 a.m., a black car idled outside the hospital. Victor's voice came through Daniel's phone before he could speak. "You have until sunrise to bring me something useful." Daniel swallowed hard. "Why him? What do you want with Miguel?" "What I want," Victor said slowly, "is what he stole from me." The call ended, leaving only the cold hum of the line. Daniel stared once more at the photo, torn between blood and debt. He'd always believed Miguel was just a lost soul, but Victor's interest meant there was something darker at play. He grabbed his coat, casting one last look at Eli's sleeping face. "I'll be back, son. I swear." His footsteps echoed down the empty hallway, each one heavier than the last. Daniel reached the Iron Pier district just as dawn began to gray the sky. Rusted ships, abandoned containers, and a biting wind surrounded him. Then, a figure moved behind one of the storage crates. A flash of a familiar profile. Daniel's heart stopped. It was Miguel. Before Daniel could call out, someone else's hand clamped over his mouth from behind, and a gun pressed coldly against his neck. The cold metal pressed into Daniel's neck sent a shiver down his spine. He froze, his breath shallow, his mind racing. "Don't move," a rough voice warned. Daniel slowly raised his hands. "Wait. I'm not here to hurt anyone." A flashlight flicked on. The light sliced through the mist, landing on Daniel's face, and the man holding the gun froze. "Daniel." Daniel's heart skipped. "Miguel?" The gun wavered, then lowered slightly. Miguel stepped forward, older, thinner, with deep lines etched into his face. The kind life carves when every day feels borrowed. His eyes darted around nervously. "What the hell are you doing here? You shouldn't have come." Daniel's voice trembled. "Victor sent me." Miguel cursed under his breath, shoving the gun into his waistband. "Then you need to leave. Now." Daniel took a step closer. "I thought you were dead. Why is Victor after you?" Miguel exhaled heavily, glancing over his shoulder as if the shadows themselves were listening. "Because I took something from him. Something he can't afford to lose." He motioned for Daniel to follow him into an abandoned cargo room. The air smelled of rust and salt. Miguel pulled a dusty crate aside, revealing a small metal box hidden beneath. Inside, wrapped in layers of cloth, was a slim black hard drive. "This," Miguel whispered, "is why he wants me dead." Daniel frowned. "What's on it?" Miguel hesitated. "Everything. His entire operation, bribes, shipments, murders, names. It's enough to bring his whole empire down." Daniel's pulse quickened. "Then why not go to the police?" Miguel gave a hollow laugh. "You think the police aren't already owned by him? This drive is my only leverage, my only reason I'm still alive." Before Daniel could respond, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. "You found him. Step outside." Daniel's stomach dropped. He looked at Miguel, who had already pulled his gun again. "They tracked you," Miguel said grimly. "You led them here." "No," Daniel whispered urgently. "I swear I didn't." Gunfire erupted outside. The windows shattered as black SUVs screeched to a halt by the pier. Men in tactical gear stormed the building. Miguel grabbed the hard drive and shoved it into Daniel's coat pocket. "Take it, go." Daniel shook his head. "I can't leave you." "He doesn't want me, he wants what I know." Miguel fired a warning shot toward the door. "Run, damn it!" Smoke filled the room as bullets tore through the metal walls. Daniel crawled behind a crate, clutching the drive like his son's heartbeat depended on it, because in a way it did. Miguel covered him, firing back until the click of an empty magazine echoed like a death knell. "Tell Eli," Miguel began, but his words were drowned by another burst of gunfire. Daniel's world tilted as he stumbled through a side door, sprinting into the rain-soaked docks. Behind him, flames burst from the warehouse, lighting the sky in orange and smoke. He didn't stop running until the gunfire faded into the distance. He pressed his back against a wall, chest heaving, soaked in sweat and guilt. Daniel pulled the hard drive from his pocket, slick with rain and blood. His reflection in the black surface looked like a man he no longer recognized. His phone buzzed again, this time with a voice message from Victor himself. "I hope my drive's safe with you, Mr. Cruz, because if it's not, your son won't live to see another sunrise." Rain poured down in silver sheets, masking Daniel's ragged breathing. Victor's words still played on repeat in his mind. "Bring me what's mine, or your son won't live to see another sunrise." Daniel stared at the hard drive in his trembling hand. The tiny black object felt heavier than iron. He knew what was on it now. Proof that could destroy Victor, or destroy him and Eli if he failed to use it right. He shoved it into his coat and stumbled into the night. Hours later, Daniel slipped into the hospital under a borrowed jacket and a hood drawn low. The night nurse didn't recognize him. He moved like a ghost through the corridors until he reached Eli's room. The boy was asleep, his chest rising and falling softly. Relief broke through Daniel's fear, until he noticed the two men in black suits stationed down the hall, Victor's men, watching. Daniel's pulse spiked. They were already waiting for him to make a mistake. He crept into the room, leaned close to Eli and whispered, "We have to go, champ." Eli stirred weakly. "Dad? Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." Daniel gathered his son's few belongings, disconnected the IV carefully, and wrapped him in a blanket. The soft monitor beep slowed, then silenced. Within seconds they were gone, slipping through the emergency exit before anyone noticed. He didn't stop until he reached the city's forgotten quarter, an industrial wasteland of rusted rails, abandoned storage units, and the faint hum of power lines. It was here, in an old storm shelter beneath a collapsed warehouse, that he found refuge. Days passed. The shelter was damp and cold, but quiet. Daniel kept Eli close, feeding him canned soup, whispering stories to keep his spirits alive. But peace was fragile. At night, Daniel could hear engines in the distance, slow, methodical. Someone was searching. He spent every moment paranoid, glancing at shadows clutching the hard drive like a curse. He knew Victor wouldn't rest until it was back in his hands. One night, as Daniel wiped sweat from Eli's forehead, he noticed the boy's skin burning hot. His breathing turned shallow, labored. "Eli, Hey, stay with me, Daniel whispered, panic clawing at his voice. He grabbed the empty medicine bottles, all gone. No supplies left, no doctor, no time. Then his phone buzzed. No caller ID, just a message. He hesitated before opening it. The screen lit up with a single line. Bring me what's mine, or the boy dies for real this time. Attached was a photo of Eli, taken from the hospital surveillance feed. Victor knew exactly where they were hiding. Daniel's heart pounded as the phone slipped from his hand. He looked at his shivering son, then at the hard drive. If he stayed, Eli would die. If he surrendered it, they'd both be dead anyway. He had one choice left, to outsmart the devil who owned the city. A loud engine roared outside the shelter. Headlights cut through the cracks in the wall. Victor's men had found them. Engines growled like beasts outside the shelter. Daniel pressed Eli against his chest, whispering, "Stay quiet, son. Don't make a sound." Boots splashed through puddles. Flashlights cut through the cracks. Voices barked orders, low, controlled, efficient. "Check every corner. The boss said he's here." Daniel's mind raced. The shelter had only one exit, the front, and now it was surrounded. He looked around desperately, spotting an old maintenance shaft half covered by rubble. He laid Eli gently beside it and began clearing debris with trembling hands. Every scrape of metal echoed like thunder. Then, silence. A deep, gravelly voice broke the stillness. "Cruz," the man called, his tone unnervingly calm. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Daniel froze. He knew that voice from the streets. Rafael Vargas, Victor's enforcer, a man said to track his prey for weeks without sleeping. Ruthless, precise, unstoppable. "Come out," Rafael continued, stepping closer. "Hand me the drive. I'll make sure the boy gets his medicine." Daniel's jaw tightened. He didn't believe a word. Eli stirred weakly, coughing. Daniel covered his mouth gently, whispering, "Please, just a little longer." A flashlight beam swept across the shelter, inches from them. Daniel grabbed Eli, squeezed through the narrow shaft, and crawled into the dark just as gunfire erupted behind him. Bullets ripped through the walls. Shards of rust and dust filled the air. Daniel didn't look back. He climbed, pushing Eli ahead, emerging through a broken drainage pipe into the forest behind the industrial line. Hours later, as dawn painted the horizon, Daniel staggered toward an abandoned service road, exhausted and bleeding from a cut on his arm. Eli was fading fast. He hid under an overpass trying to catch his breath, when a quiet voice came from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here." Daniel jerked up, ready to fight, until he saw her. A young woman in a long black coat, hair tied neatly, face half hidden under a hood. Her voice was soft but steady, her gaze sharp with intelligence. "Who are you?" Daniel demanded. She hesitated before replying. "Someone who can get you medicine for your son. But you have to trust me." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "You work for him, don't you?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she handed him a vial of antibiotics and a folded map. "There's a clinic 3 miles from here. The doctor there owes me a favor. Go now before Rafael tracks your scent." Daniel took the vial, studying her. "Why help me?" She looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because my father won't stop until you're dead." Daniel's breath caught. "Your father?" She lowered her hood, revealing sharp gray eyes and the unmistakable features of Victor Moretti's bloodline. "My name is Isabella," she said softly. "And if you want to live, you'll listen to me." Daniel took a cautious step back, disbelief written all over his face. Why would Victor's daughter betray him? Her eyes glistened, pain flickering in them. "Because I've seen what he does to people who tell the truth, and because your son doesn't deserve to pay for what my family's done." She handed him a burner phone. "I'll contact you when it's safe. But remember, Daniel, Rafael doesn't fail. Ever." She started to turn away, then stopped. her voice dropping to a whisper heavy with dread. My father doesn't just want the drive. He wants the truth buried with you. Daniel stood frozen, the weight of her words settling like lead in his chest. In the distance, the sound of engines roared again. Raphael had found their trail. And this time, he wasn't coming to capture. He was coming to kill. Engines thundered through the valley as Daniel dragged Eli off the road and into the cover of thick brush. The boy's weak coughs tore at his heart. Somewhere behind them, Raphael's convoy prowled the highway. Slow, deliberate, patient. The sound of hunters who already believed the prey had nowhere left to run. When silence finally returned, Daniel lifted Eli and followed the map Isabella had given him. Every step felt heavier. Each heartbeat reminded him of the secret she carried, and the fear in her eyes when she warned him. By sunrise, Daniel reached the clinic, a half-broken building behind a church with shattered glass windows covered by newspapers. The sign above the door read, Dr. M. Bellini, Family Practice, Retired. Inside, the air smelled of iodine and dust. A weary man in his 60s looked up from a table stacked with yellowed files. His white coat hung loosely, a cigarette burning in a tray beside him. You must be the man she called about, the doctor said, voice raspy but calm. The one with the sick boy. Daniel froze. She called ahead? Bellini nodded, guiding Eli onto a makeshift cot. She said you'd be desperate and that I'd understand why. Daniel hovered anxiously. Can you help him? Bellini injected a clear fluid into Eli's arm, monitoring his pulse. He's burning up, but he'll live. What he needs most is rest, and a father who stops running for a night. Daniel exhaled shakily, sitting beside the cot. You know her, don't you? Isabella. The doctor smirked faintly. Known her since she was a child. Her mother used to bring her here before Victor changed. Daniel frowned. Changed how? Bellini's expression darkened. He used to be ruthless, but human. Then something happened about 10 years ago. A betrayal in his ranks. A death he never recovered from. Since then, paranoia drives him. He trusts no one, not even his daughter. Daniel leaned forward. Tell me something. The night I called for help, when Eli was dying, how did that call connect to Victor's line? I dialed the hospital. I don't understand how it reached him. The old man paused, lighting another cigarette. Ah, so you don't know. Know what? Daniel pressed. Bellini looked at him steadily. That call wasn't an accident. Someone rerouted it. I checked with my contacts. The emergency line was intercepted through a private switchboard used only by the Moretti family. Daniel's blood ran cold. You're saying someone wanted my call to reach Victor? Exactly. Bellini flicked ash into the tray. And whoever did it knew that Victor would answer, and that he'd find you. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. But who would do that? Why? The doctor took a slow drag, studying him with pity. Because sometimes fate doesn't just happen. Someone designs it. Before Daniel could reply, a phone rang, Bellini's burner line. He picked it up, listening for a moment before his eyes widened. He turned to Daniel, whispering urgently, You need to go. Now. Daniel's pulse quickened. What is it? Bellini's voice dropped to a whisper. The one who rerouted your call. She's the reason Victor found you in the first place. Who? Daniel demanded. Bellini hesitated, then met his gaze. It was Isabella. Daniel staggered back, his mind spinning. No, that can't be true. She helped us. Before Bellini could answer, the clinic lights flickered. Outside, engines roared once more. Raphael had found them. As Daniel grabbed Eli and fled through the back door, Isabella's voice came through his phone, trembling, almost breaking. Daniel, please, listen to me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Rain lashed against the windshield as Daniel drove through the night, Eli's faint breathing echoing from the back seat. He clutched the phone tight to his ear, his voice low and furious. You used us, Isabella. You put my son's life in danger. On the other end, Isabella's voice trembled. I didn't know Victor would go after you. I thought if I rerouted the emergency line, I could find someone honest, someone outside his reach. Daniel's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Honest? You sent killers after me. No, she whispered. I sent him a father, a man with nothing to lose. I needed someone he couldn't corrupt, someone who could expose him for what he really is. Her voice cracked, guilt bleeding through every word. I'm sorry, Daniel. I thought I was saving lives. I didn't realize I was putting your son in danger. Daniel's anger faltered for a moment. Behind him, Eli groaned softly in his sleep, his small frame shivering despite the blanket. Daniel's voice softened, though his eyes stayed hard. Then help me fix it. There was silence. Then Isabella said, I can. But you have to trust me again. An hour later, under a moonless sky, Daniel pulled into an abandoned villa on the outskirts of the city, one of Victor's unused safe houses. Overgrown vines wrapped around its iron gates, the kind of place that whispered danger, even in silence. Isabella stood waiting in the shadows. She stepped forward, drenched by rain, a hood drawn over her face. When she saw Eli, her eyes softened. He's burning up again, she said quietly. Bring him inside. There's medicine here. My father doesn't know about this place, not yet. Daniel hesitated. If you're lying, I'm not. Her gaze met his, steady but full of regret. I owe you that much. Inside, the villa smelled faintly of dust and bourbon. Isabella led them to a small guest room with a clean bed and a working heater. She handed Daniel a vial of medicine and bandages. As Daniel tended to Eli, Isabella leaned against the doorframe, her voice barely audible. I was 12 when I found out who my father really was, she said. He killed my mother's brother, the only man who ever stood up to him. Since then, I've been gathering proof. I couldn't do it alone. I needed someone clean, someone Victor wouldn't suspect. Daniel looked up. So you used me. I believed you could survive him, she said softly, that you were strong enough to do what I couldn't. Silence filled the room. The rain outside had softened to a whisper. Daniel finally said, If you truly want to stop him, then we do it together. For Eli, for everyone he's hurt. For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips, not of hope, but of shared determination. But neither of them noticed the faint click from under the bed frame. Outside, in the darkness, Raphael crouched by a tree, holding a receiver that blinked once, then locked onto a signal. His lips curved into a cold smile. Found you? He rose, rain dripping from his gloves, and spoke into his earpiece. Tell the boss. The boy's breathing easy. For now. A small tracker blinked steadily beneath Eli's bed, and Daniel had no idea that every heartbeat of his son was now leading Victor's men straight to them. The red dot blinked silently beneath Eli's bed, pulsing like a countdown. Daniel stirred in his sleep, the exhaustion of running wearing down his resolve. Isabella sat near the window, watching the rain roll down the glass. She hadn't closed her eyes all night. The guilt in her chest wouldn't let her. Outside in the tree line, Raphael's men waited like shadows, communicating in low murmurs. Target confirmed. The kid's here, one said into his radio. Raphael's cold eyes narrowed. We move at dawn. No noise. The boss wants the father alive. Inside the villa, Isabella's phone buzzed. She froze. It was Victor. For a moment she didn't answer, but she knew silence would only make things worse. Father, she said softly. So it's true. Victor's voice came low, controlled, too calm to be safe. You've been lying to me. Isabella's throat tightened. I'm trying to fix what you broke. Fix? He gave a bitter laugh. You think I need fixing? You think a traitor like you can decide what's right for this family? She took a breath, tears stinging her eyes. You're destroying everything you touch. I couldn't watch anymore. For a long silence, Victor said nothing. Then coldly, I spared you once because you were my daughter. Don't make me regret it. The call ended. Isabella's hands trembled as she realized what she'd just done. Not just betrayed him, but declared war. In his penthouse, Victor turned to his guards. Find her. Bring her home. I want her confined until I decide whether she still carries my blood or just my shame. Back at the villa, the morning light crept in pale and cold. Daniel woke to find Isabella gone from the window, her phone smashed on the floor. Something in the air felt wrong, too quiet. He checked on Eli, still asleep, pale but breathing steadily. Daniel brushed his son's hair aside, whispering, Just hold on, buddy. We'll get through this. Outside, Raphael's men breached the gate. In a blur, Daniel heard the crack of a silencer and the thud of boots. Instinct kicked in. He grabbed Eli and rushed toward the back door. But before he could reach it, Raphael appeared in the hallway, his pistol raised. You should have run farther, Daniel. Daniel froze, clutching Eli to his chest. He's just a child. Raphael sneered. Which makes him perfect bait. He fired a warning shot into the ceiling. Isabella burst in from the side, shouting, Raphael, stop! My father wants them alive. Raphael smirked. Oh, I know. That's why I'm taking the boy myself. Before she could react, one of Raphael's men struck her from behind. She hit the floor hard, the world spinning. Daniel lunged, but Raphael grabbed Eli, pulling him away. The child's weak voice broke the silence. Dad, don't let them take me. Eli, Daniel roared, struggling against two armed men as Raphael disappeared through the door with the boy. By the time Daniel broke free, the van's tires screeched into the distance. The villa fell into silence again. Broken furniture, shattered glass, and Isabella bleeding on the floor. She looked up at Daniel with trembling lips. He's taking Eli to my father. Daniel's fists clenched, rage and grief twisting his face. Then your father just declared war on the wrong man. As sirens wail faintly in the distance, Daniel vows to storm Victor's empire. Not as a desperate father anymore, but as a man with nothing left to lose. Smoke still curled from the gunshot holes in the villa's walls. Daniel stood amid the ruin, breathing hard, his hands trembling not from fear, but rage. Isabella sat on the floor, pressing a cloth against her wound, her face pale. You can't take on my father alone, she whispered. He'll crush you before you even reach Raphael. Daniel looked down at her, his eyes burning. He already took my son. I've got nothing else left for him to take. He turned and stormed into the rain, determination etched into every step. For hours, Daniel scavenged through Victor's network, calling old contacts from his past life as a mechanic, bribing street informants, tracing whispers about Raphael's hideouts. Each clue led him deeper into the city's underworld. At a seedy bar in the docks, Daniel cornered one of Raphael's men. The thug laughed at first, until Daniel slammed his head against the counter and hissed, Where is my son? Moments later, Daniel walked out with blood on his knuckles and an address in his hand, a warehouse on the outskirts of the industrial zone. That night, under the dim glow of flickering streetlights, Daniel armed himself with whatever he could find, a pistol, a wrench, a switchblade. Gone was the desperate father begging for help. In his place stood a man sharpened by grief and resolve. As he approached the warehouse, the wind howled through broken glass. Inside, Victor's men loaded crates into trucks, unaware of the storm walking through their doors. Daniel moved like a shadow, silent, precise. He sabotaged the power grid, plunged the building into darkness, and struck fast. The first guard fell to a silent chokehold. The second tripped a wire Daniel had rigged, collapsing under debris. Every move was fueled by Eli's faint cry replaying in his mind. Then, a voice echoed across the floor. You've changed, Daniel. Raphael stepped from the shadows, gun drawn, his expression unreadable. Didn't think you had it in you." Daniel aimed his pistol, eyes cold. "Where's my son?" Raphael smirked. "Safe. For now. Depends on you." They circled each other, the tension thick. Daniel's voice broke through the silence. "You don't have to do this. Victor's using you like everyone else." Raphael's jaw tightened. "I owe him my life. I was just a boy when he took me in." Daniel frowned. "You said your name was Rafael Vega. My wife's maiden name was Vega." Raphael froze. His eyes widened, just for a second, before he masked it. "What did you say?" Daniel stepped closer, his voice trembling. "My wife, Sofia Vega. You knew her, didn't you?" Raphael lowered his gun slightly, memories flickering behind his cold stare. "Sofia?" he whispered. "That can't be." Daniel's heart pounded. "She was your cousin, wasn't she?" Raphael's face hardened, the mask slipping into confusion, pain, and disbelief. He took a step back, lowering his weapon completely. "She told me she had no family left," he muttered, eyes distant. "He lied to both of us." Before Daniel could respond, headlights flared outside. More of Victor's men arriving, engines roaring. Raphael looked at Daniel with a mix of guilt and resolve. "We don't have much time." Daniel's voice cut through the noise. "Then help me save Eli, if you have even a shred of family left in you." Raphael stares at Daniel, torn between his loyalty to Victor and the truth about Sofia, as the warehouse doors burst open and armed men storm in from every side. Gunfire erupted as the warehouse filled with Victor's men. Bullets tore through crates, sending clouds of dust into the air. Daniel ducked behind a steel column, reloading fast. Across the floor, Raphael returned fire, his movements efficient, too trained for a mere enforcer. The roar of engines outside faded, replaced by the chaos of the battle inside. When the last echo of gunfire died, silence fell, broken only by the drip of leaking pipes and Daniel's heavy breathing. Raphael wiped blood from his cheek, staring at Daniel with haunted eyes. "You fight like her," he muttered. Daniel frowned. "Like who?" "Sofia." The name froze him. Raphael took a step forward, lowering his weapon. "You think you knew everything about her, don't you? About your perfect wife? The woman you built your world around?" Daniel's heart pounded. "Don't you dare talk about her." Raphael's gaze was sharp but trembling. "Victor didn't just know Sofia. He loved her, long before she met you." Daniel's face drained of color. "That's a lie." "She worked for him," Raphael said quietly. "Back when he was still building his empire. She was one of his couriers, loyal, smart, fearless. Victor trusted her more than anyone. Then she met you, and vanished without a word." Daniel shook his head, backing away as if the truth were poison. "No. She told me she left that life behind. She told me she never worked for men like him." Raphael sighed, his voice soft but cutting. "You were her escape, Daniel. But Victor never forgot. When she ran, she took something from him, something he thought was his." The silence stretched between them. Daniel's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Raphael hesitated, then looked him dead in the eye. "Eli." Daniel froze. The name hit harder than any bullet. "What about my son?" Raphael's voice cracked, almost reluctant. "Victor believes the boy isn't yours. He says Sofia was already carrying his child when she left him." Daniel's mind went blank. The ground seemed to tilt beneath him. No, that's impossible. Sofia would have told me." "Would she?" Raphael asked softly. "She wanted a normal life, Daniel. Maybe she thought the truth would destroy it." Before Daniel could respond, a new voice echoed from the upper walkway, calm, low, and cold. She was right. Daniel turned slowly. Victor Moretti stood above them, flanked by two guards, his coat swaying in the dust-filled air. His expression was unreadable, not rage, but something far deeper. I warned Sophia that running from me wouldn't change what we shared, Victor said, his voice echoing. She thought she could hide the boy, raise him under another man's name. But blood doesn't lie. Daniel's chest tightened. You're lying, Victor. Victor descended the stairs one slow step at a time. When you called me that night, I didn't realize who you were, not until I saw the boy's face, the same eyes as hers. He stopped a few feet away, his gaze burning with cruel satisfaction. You've been raising my son all these years, Daniel. Daniel staggered back, shaking his head violently. No, he's mine. He's mine. Victor tilted his head, voice dropping to a whisper that cut through Daniel like glass. The boy carries my blood. The words echoed through the warehouse colder than the night air. Daniel's breath came shallow. His hands trembled, rage mixing with disbelief. Raphael looked away, guilt etched across his face. In that moment, the world Daniel knew, his marriage, his son, his very identity, shattered completely. Daniel's gun hand trembles as Victor steps closer, smiling faintly. Now tell me, Daniel, would you still die for a child who was never truly yours? The echo of Victor's words, "The boy carries my blood," lingered long after the warehouse fell silent. Daniel's grip on his gun faltered. He wanted to shoot, to scream, to deny everything, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at him like a slow poison. Raphael stood between them, tension thick enough to choke on. "Victor, let the boy go," he said. "This isn't how—" Victor's cold glare silenced him. "You forget your place, Raphael. The child is mine." Daniel lunged forward, fury overriding pain. "You lost the right to call him anything the day Sophia left you." Guards rushed in, separating them before Daniel could strike. Victor's expression remained eerily calm. "You want proof? Fine." He gestured to his men. "Bring the boy." Hours later, in Victor's private medical wing, a sterile white space filled with machines and secrets, blood samples were drawn. Daniel sat motionless in the corner, eyes hollow. The test results arrived before dawn. The doctor trembled as he handed over the papers. Victor unfolded them slowly, scanning the lines, and smiled. "It's true," he murmured. "My blood runs in his veins." Daniel's world shattered in that instant. His hands shook, the document blurring before his eyes. All the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the love, reduced to a cruel twist of fate. "No," he whispered. "He's my son. I raised him. I held him when he was dying. That makes him mine." Victor's tone turned soft, too soft to be comforting. "You were his guardian, Daniel, a stand-in. But now it's time the boy learned where he truly belongs." Daniel's voice broke. "You mean in your world of killers and corruption?" Victor smirked. "In power, where he was destined to be." That night, Daniel packed a bag in silence. His face was pale, his eyes hollow but determined. Isabella tried to stop him. "You can't run forever," she pleaded. "If you disappear, Victor will hunt you to the ends of the earth." Daniel looked at her, his voice low but firm. "Then let him try. I've lost everything except the chance to save what's left of my son's soul." He moved quickly, using back routes through the city, determined to reach the small clinic where Eli was kept under guard. His plan was reckless: break in, take the boy, and vanish beyond the border before dawn. But fate had other plans. As Daniel approached the clinic, he noticed something wrong. The gate was open, the guards were gone, and smoke rose from the yard. He rushed inside and froze. The room where Eli had been resting was empty. The bed overturned, the window shattered. A spray-painted mark on the wall, a red serpent coiled around a crown, sent chills down Daniel's spine. He recognized it immediately. The serpents, Victor's rival gang. Footsteps echoed behind him. Isabella burst in, breathless, eyes wide with horror. "Daniel, they've taken him. The serpents got to Eli first. Daniel's knees nearly gave out. No, no, no. Raphael's voice crackled through Isabella's phone. I just got word from my contacts. They're demanding a trade, the drive Sophia stole, in exchange for the boy. Daniel clenched his fists, his voice trembling with fury. I don't care who he belongs to by blood. He's my son, and I'll burn every empire to bring him back. Victor receives the same message moments later, realizing his heir is now in the hands of his deadliest enemies. Both men, bound by love and blood, prepare for war, but only one will reach Eli first. The city hadn't slept that night. Sirens wailed in the distance and the scent of smoke clung to the dawn. Both Victor Moretti and Daniel Cruz, enemies bound by one stolen child, stared at the same message glowing on their phones. Bring the drive, come alone, or the boy dies. Victor crushed the phone in his hand, fury simmering behind his calm eyes. Across town, Daniel stared at the same words with trembling resolve. By sunrise, they met, in the burned-out ruins of an old cathedral that once belonged to Victor's family. The silence between them was thick enough to choke on. I should kill you where you stand, Victor said, his tone measured but deadly. Daniel's gaze was cold. You can try, but you'll never find Eli without me. Victor smirked faintly. You think I'd trust you again after you ran with my blood? Daniel stepped closer. You want your heir. I want my son. For now, that makes us the same. The tension lingered until Victor finally nodded. One alliance, one goal. When it's done, you disappear. Forever. Daniel's jaw tightened. Fine. Within hours, Victor's empire roared back to life. Men in black vehicles swept through alleys and ports, interrogating informants. Daniel rode with Raphael, who now acted as the reluctant bridge between both worlds. The serpents were everywhere, armed, ruthless, emboldened, and their target wasn't just Eli. They wanted the drive Sophia had stolen, the same drive that held records of Victor's crimes. As chaos spread, rival families began to rise, smelling blood in the water. Old debts were called in, and new alliances formed in the shadows. The city became a battlefield. Fire in the docks, gunfire in the alleys, power shifting like a storm-tossed sea. Daniel and Victor moved like twin storms. Daniel's cunning balancing Victor's raw brutality. Where Victor's men failed with force, Daniel succeeded with wit, rerouting the gang's supply lines, leaking false intel, and trapping ambush teams before they could strike. For the first time, Victor regarded him not as a nuisance, but as an equal. You think like a soldier, Victor said one night, cleaning his gun. Daniel replied quietly, No, I think like a father. The truce held, until a captured serpent broke under interrogation. Your boss wants more than the boy, the man coughed. He wants revenge. Victor frowned. Revenge for what? The captive grinned through bloodied lips. For the brother you buried. The words struck Victor like a gunshot. His expression hardened, unreadable. That's impossible. But deep inside, something cold twisted in him. A memory long buried. Later that night, Daniel and Victor tracked the serpents to the outskirts. An abandoned subway tunnel turned fortress. As they breached the gates, chaos erupted. Fire, shouting, gunfire echoing off steel walls. In the heart of the compound, Eli sat bound to a chair, pale, frightened, but alive. Daniel's voice broke through the gunfire. Eli. But before he could reach him, a slow clap echoed from the shadows. From the far end of the room, a man stepped forward, tall, calm, his face half-burned, his smile venomous. Hello, brother. Victor froze. His breath hitched. No. You're dead. The man chuckled softly. You buried me, remember? Or did you forget how easily you trade blood for power? Daniel's confusion deepened. Brother? Victor's jaw clenched. Lorenzo Moretti, the ghost I thought I buried years ago. Lorenzo's gaze flicked toward Eli. You took my life, Victor. Now I'll take your legacy. He turned to Daniel with a cruel smile. And you'll deliver it to me. Lorenzo draws his gun, aiming it at Eli's head. The bloodline ends tonight, unless one of you kills the other first. The tunnel trembled with the echoes of gunfire. Daniel stood frozen, his eyes darting between Victor and the man aiming a gun at his son. Eli's small frame shook, his wide eyes pleading silently for help. Victor's voice was low, his composure cracking for the first time. Luca, I saw you die. I watched them bury you. The man smirked, stepping into the light. Half his face was scarred, his eyes burning with cold amusement. Oh, you watched, brother, but you never looked close enough. He circled Victor slowly, his voice venomous. You told the family I was a traitor, that I sold out our operations to the feds. You used my death to seize everything I built. My men, my empire, my name. Victor's jaw tightened. Because you did betray us. Luca laughed darkly. You've always been a good liar, Victor, even to yourself. Daniel's patience snapped. Enough! Where's my son fit into this twisted family drama? Luca's eyes flicked toward him, cold but intrigued. Ah, the desperate father. Or should I say, the borrowed one. Daniel's fists clenched, but before he could move, Luca's gun pressed harder against Eli's temple. Easy, hero. I don't want the boy dead. Not yet. Victor stepped forward, his tone steel. If you touch him, Luca interrupted with a sneer. You'll what? Kill me again? The two brothers stared each other down, decades of hatred burning between them. Luca's voice dropped, dark and deliberate. You took everything from me, Victor. My name, my life, even the woman we both loved. Daniel's heart skipped. Sophia? Luca smiled faintly. Oh, she never told you? She came to me first, looking for a way out of Victor's world. She begged me to protect her. I tried. But Victor found out. He destroyed everything, then blamed me. Victor's face was unreadable, his silence saying more than any denial could. Daniel's voice broke. So all this, Eli, Sophia, the drive, it all started with your family's lies. Luca turned his gaze back to him, cold but calculating. It always comes back to blood, Daniel. Yours, mine, his. He leaned closer to Eli, speaking almost gently. Don't be afraid, boy. I'm not your enemy. But your father, both of them, made choices that doomed you before you were born. Daniel lunged, but guards restrained him. You don't get to talk about my son like that. Luca gestured for his men to hold. Then he crouched down to Daniel's eye level, his voice lowering into something dangerously calm. I don't want him dead, Cruz. I want Victor broken. And you can help me do that. Daniel frowned, panting. What do you want? Luca's smirk returned. Simple, the hard drive. The one your late wife stole. The one that could destroy Victor's entire empire. Victor's eyes narrowed. You're after that too? Luca chuckled softly. Oh, brother. I don't need your money or your empire. I just want the truth to burn everything you've ever built. He turned to Daniel, his gun lowering slightly from Eli's head. Bring me the drive and you'll walk free with your son. No tricks, no bloodshed. Daniel's mind raced. The drive was his last weapon, the only thing keeping Victor in check. But now, it was the only thing that could buy his son's life. The tunnel went silent, every eye locked on him. Even Eli's faint whisper broke the air. Dad, please. Daniel's throat tightened, torn between justice, revenge, and love. Cliffhanger. Luca's voice cut through the silence one last time, cold, final, and deadly. You have 24 hours, Daniel. Bring me the drive, or the next time you see your son, he won't be breathing. The echo of Luca's threat lingered in the air long after he vanished into the shadows. The tunnel smelled of oil and blood, and Daniel stood motionless, staring at the spot where his son had been taken. Victor broke the silence first. "You're running out of time, Cruz. You know what he wants." Daniel turned sharply. "Don't act like you care. You're the reason any of this is happening." Victor's eyes flashed, but his voice remained calm. Too calm. "You think I wanted this? Luca's been waiting for years to surface. That drive is his weapon. Hand it to him and you doom everyone tied to me, including your boy." Daniel's voice cracked. "You mean your boy?" For a moment, something human flickered behind Victor's cold gaze. He stepped closer, speaking low and deliberate. "Daniel, if Luca releases what's on that drive, the government will come for me. And for Eli. They'll tear apart everything. I can protect him. You can't." Daniel's chest heaved. "You protect no one. You own them." He turned away, clutching his shaking hands. His mind spun, the drive hidden under the floorboards of the shelter, the image of Eli's terrified eyes, and the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders. Victor continued, voice echoing through the chamber. "If you hand it to me, I'll make sure Luca never touches your son again. If you hand it to him, your son becomes the bullet he fires." Daniel's head dropped. "And if I destroy it?" Victor's tone hardened. "Then you destroy your only leverage. You'll lose everything, including him." Hours later, Daniel sat in a dim motel room miles away, staring at the hard drive lying on the table. Its small, blinking light felt like an accusation. He could hear his wife's voice in memory. "Promise me, Daniel. Whatever happens, protect Eli, even from the truth." He buried his face in his hands. "I'm trying," he whispered. "God, I'm trying." A small sound made him look up. Eli's phone, left behind during the chaos, blinked with a new video message. His heart pounded as he pressed play. The screen showed Eli in a dark room, eyes red from crying, whispering hurriedly into the camera. "Dad, if you see this, don't trust anyone, not even him." Daniel froze. Not even who? The video glitched, static, then a distorted shadow passed behind Eli before the message ended abruptly. Daniel's breath hitched. He replayed it again, slower this time, and caught a flicker, a reflection in a glass panel behind his son. It wasn't Luca. It wasn't one of his men. It was Victor. Daniel's world tilted. The truth hit like a gunshot. Victor had known where Eli was all along. The entire kidnapping might have been a setup, a manipulation. He backed away from the phone, his mind unraveling. No, he wouldn't. But deep down, Daniel knew. Every move Victor made was a calculation. Every promise came with a noose. His knuckles whitened as he grabbed the drive, fury replacing fear. "You wanted the truth buried, Victor? Then I'll make the whole world see it." He stormed out of the room, unaware that a black car had been parked across the street for hours, engine still running. Inside, Victor watched through tinted glass, his voice calm as ever. "He's taking the bait." Cliffhanger. The camera inside Eli's room flickers again, showing the boy whispering a final unheard warning before the feed cuts to black. The night air reeked of salt and gun oil. Waves crashed violently against the rusted docks of the old port, the wind howling through broken cranes and forgotten warehouses. Daniel's headlights cut through the fog as he pulled up near the water's edge. He could see shadows moving in the distance, Luca's men, rifles glinting beneath the floodlights. And somewhere behind him, the low purr of another engine. Victor had followed. Daniel stepped out, clutching the hard drive tight, the weight of his choices heavy in his chest. "Let's end this," he muttered. A voice echoed from the darkness. "You brought company," Luca called out, emerging from behind a shipping container. His scarred face twisted into a smirk. How touching, the liar and the fool. reunited by the same bloodline. Daniel's pulse pounded as Victor appeared beside him, flanked by two of his men. He looked pale, older, worn, but his presence still commanded fear. "This ends tonight, Luca," Victor growled. "Oh, it will," Luca sneered, "but not the way you think. Give me the drive." Daniel held it out slightly. "You'll get Eli first." Luca nodded to one of his guards, who dragged a trembling Eli from a van, bruised but alive. The sight of his son nearly brought Daniel to his knees. "Let him go," Daniel shouted. "Hand over the drive," Luca replied coolly. Victor's men shifted, fingers tightening around their triggers. The tension was unbearable. One wrong move and chaos would explode. Daniel looked at Eli, his son's terrified eyes begging him to be careful. He took a step forward, ready to trade the drive for the boy, when Victor suddenly grabbed his wrist. "Wait," Victor hissed. "He'll kill us both once he gets it." "And if I don't?" Daniel spat. "He kills him." Victor's gaze softened for the first time. "You think I don't know what it means to lose a son?" Before Daniel could respond, a single gunshot shattered the night. One of Luca's snipers had fired first, and hell broke loose. Gunfire erupted from every side. Bullets tore through metal crates. Daniel dove behind a truck, shielding Eli with his body. The hard drive slipped from his pocket, skidding across the wet ground. Luca lunged for it, but a stray bullet clipped his arm. The drive bounced once, twice, and then slid off the edge of the dock, splashing into the Black Sea below. "No!" Victor roared, breaking cover. He fired back with deadly precision, his men falling one by one. Daniel crawled toward Eli, dragging him behind a cargo container. "Stay down, don't move." When the shooting paused, smoke and screams filled the air. Luca's men retreated, dragging their wounded boss with them into the shadows. Daniel turned and froze. Victor staggered forward, blood blooming through his white shirt. He had been shot near the ribs. His gun clattered to the ground as he sank to one knee. Daniel caught him before he fell completely. "Stay with me, Victor." The Mafia boss's hand trembled, gripping Daniel's collar. His cold eyes softened with something almost human. "Protect our son," he rasped. Daniel's breath hitched. "What?" But Victor's gaze was already dimming, his pulse weakening beneath Daniel's hand. Sirens wailed in the distance, police maybe, or something worse. Daniel looked from the dying Mafia king to his son, the boy both men had fought and bled for. The sea swallowed the drive. The truth was gone, and all that remained was blood and consequence. Victor's men rushed forward, shouting for help. But when Daniel looked back at the body, Victor was gone. Only blood remained where he'd fallen. The sirens were close now. Daniel held Eli tightly, backing away from the pool of blood that marked where Victor had fallen. But there was no body, only a crimson trail leading toward the dark water. "Dad," Eli whispered weakly. Where did he go?" Daniel stared into the waves, his chest tight. "I don't know, son, but we're leaving. Now." He didn't wait for the police or Victor's men. He grabbed Eli's hand, vanished into the night, and never looked back. By dawn, the news spread like wildfire. Victor Moretti, dead or disappeared. His empire fractured within hours. Rival families seized territory, burned safe houses, and hunted anyone tied to his name. Daniel's face appeared on every wanted list, framed as the man who betrayed the Moretti syndicate and triggered its collapse. To the criminal underworld, he was the traitor who killed the king. He couldn't even bury his name anymore. Every door closed. Every alley felt like a trap. Eli's condition worsened again, the stress and fear gnawing at his frail body. Daniel used the last of his stolen money to hide them in the city's underbelly, a forgotten subway tunnel where rats outnumbered people. In the shadows, he pieced together rumors, whispers of Victor's allies turning on each other, of Isabella vanishing the same night her father fell. "She helped us," Daniel murmured. "If Victor's gone, She might be our only hope. But days turned into weeks. No sign of her. No word. Just silence. Until one night, Daniel awoke to a faint buzzing sound. His old phone, one he thought he'd smashed, vibrated on the floor beside him. The screen flickered with a single notification. Unknown number. Heart pounding, he opened it. A video loaded. Static first, then a dimly lit room. Chains. A faint whimper. Daniel's stomach dropped. It was Eli, alive, but restrained. His face pale, his eyes darting toward the camera. "Dad," his voice cracked. "Don't come for me. Please. They'll kill you too." The feed shook as someone's gloved hand gripped Eli's shoulder, dragging him out of frame. A distorted voice followed, cold and calm. "You've taken everything from him. Now it's your turn to lose." The screen went black. Daniel stared in horror, frozen in place. The sound of the sea echoed in his ears, the same sea that swallowed Victor and the drive. He realized something chilling. Whoever had Eli wasn't part of Victor's enemies. This was someone else. Someone who'd been watching all along. The video replayed itself, but this time Daniel noticed something new. In the corner of the frame behind Eli, a gold ring engraved with the Moretti family crest, and a faint, familiar voice whispering off-screen, "He's ready to take my place." The phone fell from Daniel's shaking hand. That voice, calm, measured, eerily familiar, echoed through his skull. "He's ready to take my place." He replayed the video again, zooming in on the faint reflection of the ring, the blurred figure in the background. Then it hit him, the cadence, the tone, the shadowed outline of a face that shouldn't exist anymore. "No," Daniel whispered. "It can't be him." He grabbed his coat, stuffing what little cash he had into his pocket. Eli was alive, and whoever had him knew Victor intimately. The ring, the voice, the chilling composure. Only one man fit that description. But Victor was gone. Or was he? Hours later, Daniel tracked the signal's origin to an abandoned communications tower on the edge of the city. A relic from the pre-digital age, now a den for ghosts. The elevator groaned as he climbed. The wind howled through broken windows. When he reached the top floor, a dozen monitors flickered to life, surrounding him in cold blue light. On every screen, different angles of Eli's prison, each feed clean, surgical, and deliberately composed. Then a voice echoed from a speaker. Calm, smug. "You've always been a persistent man, Mr. Cruz. I admire that." Daniel froze. "Who are you?" A chuckle, deep and clinical. "You don't recognize me? I'm wounded. After all, I saved your son's life once." The light behind the largest screen brightened, revealing a familiar face. Dr. Emil Guerin, the same mafia doctor who had treated Eli in the past. But now, his once kind eyes gleamed with something colder. "You," Daniel breathed. "You were working for Victor." "Working with him," Guerin corrected smoothly. "Until he became sentimental. That was his weakness. His empire was built on fear, but he began to care about the boy, about you, about his daughter. I had to ensure the bloodline didn't die with his mistakes." Daniel's voice trembled with rage. "Where is my son?" Guerin smiled thinly. "Safe, for now. But you see, Eli is unique. The combination of your resilience and Victor's genetic heritage has created something extraordinary. His blood carries markers that most men would kill to possess." Daniel's heart pounded. "You're insane." "No, Daniel, I'm practical." Guerin's voice turned to ice. "Tomorrow night, a private auction will take place. I'm attended by people who understand true value. The world's most powerful syndicates will bid for what Victor guarded so fiercely. His legacy, your son." Daniel's fists clenched. "You touch him, and I swear—" "You'll what?" Guerin interrupted. "You've been running your whole life. You couldn't even save your wife. Daniel lunged toward the nearest monitor, smashing it with a metal pipe. Sparks flew, screens shattered. But Garen's voice came from all directions now, filling the room with mocking laughter. Don't worry, Mr. Cruz. You'll have your chance to see him again, if you can afford the entry price. The monitors went dark. Daniel stood in the silence, breathing hard, surrounded by the glow of dying sparks. The city lights outside flickered like dying stars. Then, his phone buzzed again. A single text message. The auction, midnight, Pier 7. Come alone. He stared at it, jaw set. The same pier where Victor had fallen. The same place the truth began. He looked at the shattered monitors one last time, whispering under his breath, You saved my son once, Doctor. This time I'll save him from you. The camera cuts to Eli, unconscious on a medical table surrounded by masked men and glowing instruments. Dr. Garen's voice filters through an intercom. Begin the preparation. The blood of kings must not go to waste. Rain lashed against the steel roof of the pier as Daniel slipped through the shadows, his heart hammering with each step. The docks were alive with whispers, guards, bidders, and the rhythmic echo of generators powering the underground auction. Inside the massive cargo hall, masked men filled the rows, each seated before glowing tablets displaying the lot number. Lot Owen, the heir of Moretti bloodline. Daniel's breath caught. Through the glass observation room he saw Eli, unconscious, restrained under surgical lights, a cold line of IV fluid running into his arm. Dr. Garen stood nearby, dressed in sterile white, his calm demeanor a chilling contrast to the chaos he'd unleashed. Gentlemen, Garen's voice rang through the intercom. You're about to witness history. The chance to own what kings and monsters only dreamt of, the perfected lineage of power. Daniel's rage burned through his fear. He moved fast, taking down 2 guards with swift, silent blows. He slipped into the control room, grabbed a security earpiece, and whispered into the comms. Auction's over. Then he killed the lights. The hall erupted in screams and confusion as darkness swallowed the room. Daniel broke through the observation glass, shattering it in one swing of a crowbar. The alarms blared. Garen stumbled back, startled. You, Garen hissed. You'll ruin everything. Daniel lunged at him. The 2 men crashed against the surgical table. Instruments clattered to the floor. Garen reached for a syringe, slashing Daniel's arm, the toxin burning instantly through his veins. But Daniel's fury was stronger. He slammed Garen against the wall, knocking the syringe from his grip. You played us all, Daniel snarled. You made us your experiment. And it worked, Garen gasped. Eli is proof of evolution. Your pain was never wasted. Daniel's punch silenced him. The doctor fell, blood trailing from his lip. Daniel turned to Eli, ripping the IVs free, cradling his son in his arms. I've got you, buddy. We're going home. But then, footsteps, heavy, familiar. Daniel spun around and then froze. Victor Moretti stood at the doorway, pale, bleeding, but alive. His right hand clutched his side. His eyes burned with a strange peace. Move, Victor rasped. He raised a gun and fired. The bullet struck Garen square in the chest, sending him crashing into the control console. Sparks erupted. The monitors exploded in bursts of light. Victor staggered, collapsing against the doorframe. Daniel caught him before he hit the floor. You're alive? Daniel breathed. Victor gave a faint smile. Barely, but not for long. He looked at Eli, unconscious but breathing. You did what I couldn't. You saved him. Outside, the pier burned. Sirens wailed. The empire was ending. Why help me now? Daniel asked. Victor's eyes dimmed. Because I remembered what it felt like to be a father first. He pressed something into Daniel's palm, a small phone, cracked and old. For him, Victor whispered, when he's ready. Gunfire erupted again. Garen's men had arrived. Victor pushed Daniel toward the exit. Go. Not without you. Go, Victor shouted, turning to fire one last round. A bullet struck him in the chest. He didn't fall immediately, just smiled faintly through the pain. Daniel grabbed Eli and ran as the building went up in flames. He barely made it to the docks when the explosions consumed the hall behind them. Victor Moretti, the King of Shadows, was gone for good. Days later, Daniel sat by Eli's bedside in a quiet motel by the sea. The boy stirred, weak but alive. Daniel's phone buzzed, a new voicemail, unknown number. He hesitated before pressing play. Victor's voice, broken and distant, filled the silence. Tell him. I was never the monster I became. I was just a father too. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He looked at Eli, sleeping peacefully, and whispered, I know. Then he deleted the last number he ever called, the one that started it all. The phone fell silent for a moment, until it rang again. Daniel froze. The caller ID read, Victor Moretti. He picked it up slowly, his hand trembling. Hello? Static. Then, a faint voice. Daniel, it's not over. The end.